Hello and welcome to our channel, where we bring you interesting and informative content every week. Today's topic is a bit different. We will be discussing 20 jobs that are scarier than yours. We all know that every job comes with its own set of challenges and difficulties, but some jobs are simply more dangerous and scary than others. From working with dangerous animals to being responsible for people's lives, these jobs require a great deal of courage and dedication. So, without further ado, let's dive into the list. Firefighters. Firefighters are some of the bravest and most selfless people in the world. They put their lives on the line every day to protect people and property from the dangers of fire. From battling raging infernos to rescuing people from burning buildings, firefighters face a wide range of challenges and risks. They work long hours in difficult conditions and are often exposed to toxic fumes and chemicals that can cause serious health problems. Despite all these challenges, firefighters continue to serve their communities with courage and dedication. Police officers. Police officers have a difficult and often dangerous job. They are responsible for maintaining law and order, protecting people and property, and preventing crime. They work in a wide range of environments, from busy city streets to remote rural areas, and face a variety of risks and challenges. They are often required to deal with violent criminals, and may need to use force to protect themselves or others. In addition, police officers are exposed to a range of health risks, including stress, exhaustion, and exposure to hazardous materials. Surgeons. Surgeons are responsible for performing life-saving operations on patients. They must have a steady hand and the ability to remain calm under pressure, as even the slightest mistake can have catastrophic consequences. Surgeons work long hours in highly stressful environments, and are often required to make split-second decisions that can mean the difference between life and death. In addition, they are exposed to a range of health risks, including exposure to infectious diseases and radiation. Roofers. Roofers work at great heights, often in challenging weather conditions. They are responsible for installing and repairing roofs on buildings, which can be dangerous work. Roofers are exposed to a range of risks, including falls, electrical hazards, and exposure to toxic chemicals. They must wear protective gear to minimize these risks, but accidents can still happen. Miners. Miners work underground, often in cramped and dangerous conditions. They extract valuable minerals and other resources from the earth, but this work comes with a range of risks and challenges. Miners are exposed to a range of hazards, including cave-ins, explosions, and exposure to toxic chemicals. They must wear protective gear and work in teams to minimize these risks, but accidents can still happen. Military personnel. Military personnel work in some of the most dangerous environments in the world. They are responsible for protecting their countries from threats both foreign and domestic, and often have to risk their lives to do so. Military personnel may be deployed to war zones or other dangerous areas, where they face a range of risks and challenges. They must be highly trained and prepared to deal with any situation that arises, and must also be able to handle the emotional toll of serving in a war zone. Oil rig workers. Oil rig workers work on offshore oil rigs, often in challenging weather conditions. They are responsible for extracting oil and other resources from the sea floor, but this work comes with a range of risks and challenges. Oil rig workers are exposed to a range of hazards, including explosions and fires, toxic chemicals, and the risk of drowning if they fall into the water. They also work long hours in isolation, away from their families and loved ones. Despite all these challenges, oil rig workers continue to do their jobs with dedication and professionalism. Power line workers. Power line workers are responsible for maintaining and repairing electrical power lines. They work at great heights and are exposed to a range of risks, including electrical shocks, falls, and exposure to toxic chemicals. They must wear protective gear and work in teams to minimize these risks, but accidents can still happen. Power line workers often work long hours in challenging weather conditions, and must be prepared to respond to emergencies at any time of day or night. Commercial fishermen. Commercial fishermen work in some of the most dangerous conditions in the world. They are responsible for catching fish and other seafood, often in rough seas and challenging weather conditions. Commercial fishermen are exposed to a range of risks, including the risk of drowning if their boats capsize or if they fall overboard. They also face the risk of injury from fishing equipment and machinery, and are often exposed to extreme cold and wet conditions. Construction workers. Construction workers work in a wide range of environments, from busy city streets to remote construction sites. They are responsible for building and maintaining buildings, roads, and other infrastructure. Construction workers are exposed to a range of risks, including falls, exposure to toxic chemicals, and the risk of injury from construction equipment and machinery. They must wear protective gear and work in teams to minimize these risks, but accidents can still happen. Correctional officers. Correctional officers are responsible for managing and supervising prisoners in correctional facilities. They work in a highly stressful environment and are often required to deal with violent and unpredictable inmates. Correctional officers are exposed to a range of risks, including the risk of assault from prisoners, exposure to infectious diseases, and the risk of injury from correctional equipment and machinery. Commercial pilots. Commercial pilots are responsible for flying passengers and cargo to destinations all around the world. They must be highly trained and experienced, and must be able to handle a wide range of emergency situations. Commercial pilots are exposed to a range of risks, including the risk of mechanical failure, exposure to radiation from high-altitude flight, and the risk of terrorist attacks. Emergency medical technicians. Emergency medical technicians are responsible for providing medical care to people in emergency situations. They work in a highly stressful environment and are often required to make split-second decisions that can mean the difference between life and death. Emergency medical technicians are exposed to a range of risks, including exposure to infectious diseases, the risk of injury from accidents, and the risk of violence from patients or bystanders. Animal control officers. Animal control officers are responsible for capturing and controlling dangerous animals, including stray dogs, cats, and wild animals. They must be highly trained and experienced, and must be able to handle a wide range of emergency situations. Animal control officers are exposed to a range of risks, including the risk of animal bites and scratches, exposure to infectious diseases, and the risk of injury from animal attacks. Hazardous materials handlers. Hazardous materials handlers are responsible for handling and disposing of hazardous materials, including chemicals, radioactive materials, and biological waste. They must be highly trained and experienced, and must follow strict safety procedures to minimize the risks of exposure to these materials. Hazardous materials handlers are exposed to a range of risks, including exposure to toxic chemicals, radiation, and infectious diseases. Deep sea divers. Deep sea divers are responsible for exploring the depths of the ocean and conducting underwater research. They must be highly trained and experienced, and must be able to handle a wide range of emergency situations. Deep sea divers are exposed to a range of risks, including the risk of decompression sickness, the risk of drowning, and the risk of injury from underwater equipment and machinery. Sewer workers. Sewer workers are responsible for maintaining and repairing sewer systems. They work in confined spaces and are exposed to a range of risks, including exposure to toxic gases and chemicals, the risk of drowning in flooded sewer tunnels, and the risk of injury from sewer equipment and machinery. Sewer workers must wear protective gear and follow strict safety procedures to minimize these risks, but accidents can still happen. Air traffic controllers. Air traffic controllers are responsible for managing the flow of air traffic at airports and in the skies. They must be highly trained and experienced, and must be able to handle a wide range of emergency situations. Air traffic controllers are exposed to a range of risks, including the risk of equipment failure, exposure to radiation from radar systems, and the risk of terrorist attacks. Storm chasers. Storm chasers are responsible for studying and tracking severe weather events, including tornadoes and hurricanes. They must be highly trained and experienced, and must be able to handle a wide range of emergency situations. Storm chasers are exposed to a range of risks, including the risk of injury from flying debris, exposure to extreme weather conditions, and the risk of getting trapped in severe storms. Military service members. Military service members are responsible for defending their country and its interests around the world. They face a wide range of risks, including the risk of combat-related injuries and the risk of exposure to toxic chemicals and radiation. Military service members also face the risk of mental health issues, including post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and depression, as a result of their service. In conclusion, there are many jobs out there that are scarier than yours. From firefighters to military service members, these professionals put their lives on the line every day to keep us safe and secure. While these jobs may be challenging and dangerous, they are also rewarding and can provide a sense of purpose and fulfillment that is hard to find in other professions. Whether you are considering a career in one of these fields or simply want to show your appreciation for the brave men and women who do these jobs every day, it is important to recognize the sacrifices and risks that these professionals take on a daily basis.